From the inner sense of time comes the ancient poet's rhyme, bringing us the master key to open up the mystery. From the depth of time and space, we arrive in quiet grace, finding what is meant to be as we explore the mystery, pouring forth from days gone by. We can hear the poet sigh from the depth of ecstasy, moving into mystery. Hello and welcome again to Creative Connections. I'm your host, Gary Blanchard, and today my guest is a painter, Cruger Johnson Phillips. Cruger, welcome.
Thank you very much, Gary.
So, how long have you been painting?
As a little child, I colored with crayons. I remember one of my first experiences that stands out for me was I did a picture of an angel for my grandfather. He was reading to me, and while he was reading, I was painting. I was drawing, and I captured a face in a way that he was stunned by because there was no nose, but it intimated a nose.
Okay, yeah.
And he just thought that was amazing. Well, it turned out it was a happy accident because I could not repeat it. And so right off the bat, I had that experience of sort of the fickleness of art in that you can't always make it happen.
Right.
So I've continued to do art. I did not make my living working on art, but it was behind the scenes.
Yeah,
I was working. Yeah. I worked in pastel for about 10 years, and I have asthma, and pastel dust is not great for somebody with some respiratory issues. And
right.
Although I love the texture of pastel and the colors, I just decided it wasn't good for the long haul.
Right.
So I worked in landscapes for years, and I had some success. I had a couple of one-woman shows, and I sold work, and then I went through a period of being very discontent with what I was doing. And meanwhile, in my career, I worked as a mental health counselor and worked with teenagers for years. And the last 4+ years of my life, my working life, I was working in hospice, and I had an experience with a woman who came to me. She was dying, and I was working as a chaplain in hospice, and she had been an art major in college, and she wasn't able to find work when she finished college, so she ended up working in ads and design.
Right. Okay.
She wanted to be an art teacher, and 30 years later, almost 40 years later, she never got back to her art, and her life was very busy. She was a single parent, etc., etc. And when I met her, as it turned out, she only had 3 days left.
Oh no.
And she had always planned to get back to her art.
Okay.
And I ended up helping with her memorial service, and her son put up her artwork, and I saw her artwork was her student artwork because she had not been able to get back to. And that was sort of a fresh invigoration for me of, you're turning 65, it's time to get going if you're going to do something with your art, and find something more for you in art, because frankly it had gotten kind of stale. What I was doing felt sort of derivative, like I was copying myself.
All right.
Rather than creating anything exciting.
Okay, yeah.
It was more like taking a photograph and moving on that photograph, but it didn't feel exciting for me. So what I wanted to do was see what direction I could take. So when I did the memorial service on a Sunday, the following day I went into work and said, how long do I need to give you for notice? You know, what's fair? And they said, we'd really appreciate 6 weeks if you could give us 6 weeks. And I said, you got it. And so I did that and retired, and then got caught up for about 6 months fixing up a house that we were selling.
Right.
Moved to Brookfield, where I took over the biggest bedroom, which has north-facing light, and made it my studio. So my husband obviously had to commit
right.
to what I was about, and he's been wonderful.
That's good. So when you decided you were going to do this, you really took an interesting path in kind of finding yourself creatively.
That's right. What happened was I was muttering along, being overly critical. I mean, people would say, "Oh, Kruger, it's great," and I would say, "It doesn't do it for me. This is not what this doesn't excite me." Reading a lot of books. I took some classes, but the most important, the breakthrough for me was I watched a short video, a YouTube video, 2.5 minutes, with a pastel artist that I like a lot, Doug Dawson. And he said if he could give advice to aspiring artists, it would be what Matisse said, which is, if you want to become a better painter, paint 1,000 paintings. So I said, okay, I can see how making a commitment to that discipline could help me discover what it is that I'm looking for that I'm not getting out of what I'm doing. And so I made the commitment that I was going to try and paint 1,000 paintings, that I was going to do this. It's now or never. You know, we moved to Brookfield. I have this beautiful studio. I have all the supplies I need. I'm painting, and I need to figure out how to get from where I am to a place where I'm really excited about what I'm doing. And I need to know my voice, my vision, in a way that I had never found. I have a lot of people I admire greatly who are artists, and Wolf Kahn and Elizabeth Mowry, and there are various people who I think do wonderful work, but that's not my work.
Right. Now, if I told myself I'm going to paint 1,000 paintings, I would assume I'm looking at a number of years to do this. How long did it take you to paint your 1,000 paintings?
It took me a year. I got going, and I love it. I absolutely love it. You know, some people love to go running. I actually love swimming, and you'll probably see some of that. So I generally swim every day, and for 30 or 40 minutes, and it's very relaxing and very meditative. And I began working in the studio and found that what I did was, and I brought two of my books. They're different sizes. I started with 6 by 6 because Doug Dawson said in his 2.5 minute video, he said, it doesn't matter how big it is. Okay. The process of doing paintings is really good for developing yourself as a painter. And so I began working, and initially I gave myself half an hour. I had a little timer. I would work for half an hour on these 6 by 6 pieces.
Okay.
And then hopefully I'd gotten someplace.
Okay.
Maybe not. But so it began that way, where I was working seeing what I could do fast.
Right.
And then using little glue dots and paper, putting them into to become a painter. This is June 5th, 2019, but I began in June of 2018. So this is book 22, and most of them have about 50 pieces in them. And I, when I felt like, okay, I'm as far as I can go with this, I don't know where else to go with it, put it in the book, let it go, start another painting. So it sounds in some ways as if I did something more amazing than I did when I break it down to how I went about doing it. But the evolution has been amazing for me. And I would recommend it to anyone who is watching or who has a creative interest. Whatever it is that you would like to become great at, you can, with repetition, become much better.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, like the person who wants to become a woodworker, who sees wonderful woodworking and starts out making a birdhouse and thinks, oh my God, I'll never get there. You know, I can never make that whatever it is that I would like to make. If you keep at it, you will.
Well, you hone skills.
That's right.
And, you know, you become better at it. And, I can see it also probably feels much more natural.
Right.
After a period of time. I am not good at math, but I'm figuring out that's between 2 and 3 paintings a day.
Right.
So, you know, at that rate, you're bound to perfect techniques. And so let's look at some of your paintings. This is just amazing to me. I love how the colors blend into each other in places. So what's your technique on this?
Well, I start with heavy-duty watercolor paper, and then I put a background color, and I usually put something in the yellow, orange, red range as the background. Then I put some sort of right now I'm doing tissue paper, and I believe this one had tissue paper on it, and I put it down roughly with matte medium, which is a form of glue, and then cover that over, let it dry. So I'm working in more and more layers now. That's right. Most of my paintings are 6 to 10 layers. Okay,
because you can see, like in here, it looks like you can see where the paper maybe is just a little crinkled.
That's right.
Which gives it a wonderful effect. And I see that more in some of the other pictures.
Texture, it turns out, is very important to me. I'm very excited by texture.
Okay.
I'm also excited by color contrast. I mean, remember, I'm not doing this for anybody but me. So it's my eye I want to please. I didn't show any of my work to anybody except for one sister. Probably for 8 or 10 months.
Okay.
Because I didn't want the criticism. I didn't want anybody's feedback. I didn't want to hear what they liked or didn't like. I wanted to discover what I liked.
And you know, I think that is a valuable lesson for anybody who wants to do something creative. You have to do what feels right for you and what works for you. And whether or not other people respond to it is up to them. But it's important that you respond to it because ultimately it's your self-expression.
We live in a world that puts a lot of pressure on us to be a certain way, to not upset other people's conceptions. And I think there's progress being made, but we're still in a kind of pressure cooker from a very young age.
Oh, yeah.
And in retirement, my goal is not to be Miss People Pleaser everywhere I go.
There you go. Yeah.
But to do things that I really get excited about and that I'm thrilled about, and more and more I recognize sort of the sense of happy accident. Like that angel that I did when I was 4 or 5.
Right.
That things happen if you keep showing up. In the studio, things happen that I consciously couldn't have done that are very exciting to me, and it feeds into my spiritual life too.
Right.
Because there is some kind of sense of presence and support, and my mom, who is no longer alive, is very much with me, and she was a big supporter of my art. And sometimes I had the feeling that she's going, "Go, girl."
That's wonderful.
Yeah. Oh, we found another one.
Yeah. Yeah, this is... now, I happen to really love abstract work.
Good. This could be challenging if you didn't.
Well, no, I mean, because to me, I can appreciate the form, I can appreciate just as you say, the blending of colors, the textures, and it doesn't have to represent something, but I find a lot of times, especially work like yours, just sort of feels like it resonates with me.
Oh, great.
Here, we can see it looks like maybe some texture, or is that more a paint thing, these lines in here?
This one was kind of a gesture drawing.
Okay.
And I did begin with, I'm trying, gosh, it's hard to remember. I think there was sort of a peach color on the bottom, and then I did gesture, I did line.
Okay.
And basically went for it, just whoosh, 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 and then began focusing on colors. And these are colors that I love. You're going to see these colors in my work. And so and the texture came from sgraffito, which is taking an object and going into the paint, and you can see some of the lines in it were actually just indents in the painting as I was going along. And then removing color by putting on pieces of tissue paper. Again, I use a lot of tissue paper. And when it's still wet, these are all acrylics.
Okay.
Pressing in the paper and then pulling it off and seeing what happens, seeing what shows through, and working in layers. And then the happy accidents happen. There are things about it that I just smile, because this relationship between two colors or three colors and a shape or a line happened, and I love it. This reminds me of my dad, who was a sailor.
Okay.
And it has that, for me, that's what resonates for me in what happened.
Yeah. When I was putting together the slideshow for this, every now and then a title would pop up in the background. And I could never figure out how to get that title to pop up when I wanted it to.
Right.
But do you give these paintings names, or?
I have a mixed feeling about that.
Okay.
I think that, because titles do pop up for me too. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't know, sailing or something. I don't know what.
Yeah.
But I think it limits what happens for the viewers as soon as you put a word on it. So for the viewer, it's funny, because I really found it annoying when artists used to do untitled number 45. I wanted to be guided by the artist in terms of how to see the painting. And all of a sudden I'm reluctant to put a name on it, because I would like to let other people see their grandmother's fruit bowl, if that's what they saw.
Well, and I think that's one of the beauties of a more abstract art. It's almost like a Rorschach test.
Right.
People see in it what they want to see, and it makes it that much more personal for them.
Yeah.
This is really...
I can speak to this one. I also sometimes work with old tea bags.
Okay.
And the texture that you see in there is tea.
All right.
And that's, again, many layers. And there's a building, a brick wall, or not brick, but like ancient walls, feeling about this series that I did. I have ended up working sometimes in series.
Okay.
I get on a roll, and then it's dry for me. I've explored that far enough.
Right.
You can imagine when you're doing as many as I'm doing.
Sure.
That you end up, like, this would be a whole series of tea bag paintings.
Okay.
And they evolve, and they come to completion at different times. And some of them are horrible, and I just need to get them in the book and close the door on them. But I go back every 4 or 5 paintings, and I take a page out of my notebook and out of my book to become a painter. I take a page and I comment on them, and it would be something along the lines of the solidity of this, or this reminds me of Rome, or the right upper quarter is strong. I don't know what to do with the left bottom, or this is too dark, or oh my God, who ever thought I could be a painter? This is awful, But then just keep going.
Yeah.
I'm doing 1,000 paintings. I don't have to worry about this one. because my goal is to complete 1,000 paintings and see where I end up.
Right. And I think there's two things that come to me in all that. And one is that not everything is going to be a hit.
Oh my God, no.
And I know that as a songwriter, there are songs that I've written and even recorded that I will never play again. But then there are others that really resonate with you, and I think it would be very much the same for a painter, and especially a painter who's painted 1,000 paintings.
Right.
That there are some that will really resonate, and some that'll say, "Well, that was okay."
Right.
But
Right. Not a favorite.
Yeah.
That's.
And I'm never sure of the correct pronunciation of the artist's name, but there was Mondrian,
Yes.
who was known for the rectangles and squares and the colors, but they were very rigid.
Right.
And this sort of, to me, is like a very loose, almost an abstract Mondrian type thing. But instead of those bright primary colors, it's so muted and kind of earthy and loose. So it's kind of like Mondrian if he just kind of let himself hang loose a little bit.
Oh, that's. I hear what you're saying, and that's a great association. I love it.
So tell me about this one. And here we can see the book.
Right. I wanted to, when I sent you photos, I thought, and I didn't know if I was going to bring books, and I just thought I should bring books so people have an idea.
Absolutely.
But this was crazy. This is sort of on its own piece, and the colors are so vibrant, and they're not colors that I typically would feature. But I thought it was worthwhile to, and this is many layers again. Mm-hmm. And I have an art coach, and I should mention that about 4 years ago, I have a friend who's an artist, and she works in design. And I said to her, could we get together once a month? And it turned out to be less often than that. I just need the language. I don't have the language for what I'm looking for because I didn't go to art school. And I would like to know, I have no idea what I'm doing, but I want to know what I'm doing.
Okay.
So she saw this and said, this is so different, Cruger. I love it. And not my favorite, but I think it's important.
Yeah. And I think every now and then we need to do something kind of out of character just to try it.
Right.
And then, it's okay to say, all right, well, that's all right, but I don't want to repeat that.
Right. It works, but it's just not my favorite. I don't have any more of these, for example.
Right. Okay.
This is not part of it.
And that makes it rather unique at that.
Right.
So here, this is one I really love.
This is, I've done a series of stripes. I started out with landscapes.
Okay.
And I've done lots and lots of the paintings are landscapes. And it's evolved into more stripes. So I have big paintings. Some of my paintings are big paintings of stripes using a brayer.
Okay.
And many layers, and this looks to me like it's another tissue paper piece.
Okay.
From the lines that happen.
It probably won't show as well to the viewers, but you can see again the lines where the paper is put down, but you're not flattening it.
That's right.
You're allowing it to have some texture and movement.
Well, texture is very important to me.
Yeah.
Texture adds a sense of depth. And when you're going after happy accident, you don't want to be. I don't want to be in control of everything that happens. I want to see what happens.
Right. And you were talking about landscapes, and it's very easy for me to almost see this as a landscape because this kind of reminds me of sand, and that reminds me of sky.
Right.
So it gives that impression.
Right.
Of a landscape, and yet it's not a landscape. So that, again, I like that you can project onto it what you feel you want to or need to.
Right. Yes.
And
here's another landscape-ish looking one.
Yeah.
I discovered that that there's in acrylic paint, there are iridescents and there are metallics. And using a palette knife, you can go over some of the texture that's built into it with different tools and different colors, and create light, and using iridescents and metallics, it adds a whole nother dimension. Dimension obviously is important for me.
Yeah.
So, and that does look like a landscape.
Yeah, it does. This is, I love this one too. I think probably because of the coloring, but then I just love the kind of the lines all through it. And a lot of the lines, even as you get into the red, the lines are blue.
Uh-huh.
And I just, again, this just really kind of grabs me.
Very good. Thank you so much. And this is happy accident, you have to know.
Okay. So I want to, I'm going to fast forward just a little bit because I want to get to these.
I was very frustrated when I came into this series, and I didn't like what I was doing, and I wanted to work in blue, and I had a yellow background, and the opposite, the complementary color for yellowy orange is blue. So I just went after it and I liked them because of the movement and how different they were from what I had been working on. I put them into my book and said, enough, I'm not touching them. There's a certain freshness about them, etc. The following morning, I went back, I have 4 of them. I went back and looked at them and said, oh my God, they're water.
It's interesting.
I can't believe I didn't see it.
Well, you were so, it's that whole thing about not seeing the forest for the trees. You were at the moment you finished, you were still so much into the process.
Right.
That you needed that fresh set of eyes to come back.
Right.
Because the minute I looked at them,
right.
I said, oh, that's water.
Right.
And being somebody who is really drawn to the ocean,
right.
I really appreciated that.
It was just, to me, that's part of why I'm so glad you picked up on these, because it was stunning for me that I didn't see what it was until the following day.
And that is a wonderful story. I want to thank you for coming on, because I think the message that you have is that everybody is an artist. And you don't need to have training. You don't need to be selling work. All you need to do is to create something that makes you happy.
Correct. And to recognize that reading books about other artists, what I learned is everybody has failures. The only art you see, I didn't send you pictures of my horrors, but I have plenty of horrors in there. And to go through a book of 50 and to tag the ones I like and say, I really liked 7 of them. That's awesome. If I hadn't begun this process, forget the 43 that I don't like. Mm-hmm. There's 7 that I never would have created if I hadn't just said, go for it. And the water pictures at the end, stop. Listen to that inner voice that says, stop. You may not know what you have, but stop. Put it away. You may discover that there is something in there that is wonderful. Right. And that there's something in each of us, that we are imbued with creativity. It's one of our greatest gifts, and it's a spiritual thing for me. And to utilize that helps you feel alive and excited.
There you go. Kruger, thank you so much for coming in.
This is awesome, Gary.
And we want to thank you for tuning in to Creative Connections, and we will see you again next time. From the inner sense of time comes the ancient poet's rhyme, bringing us the master key to open up the mystery the depth of time and space, we arrive in quiet grace, finding what is meant to be, as we explore the mystery, pouring forth from days gone by. We can hear the poet sigh from the depth of ecstasy, moving into mystery.